another bad movie. Yet there is a good reason why people have an extra loathing for this film, and that is because of the strong overtones of indulgence and arrogance on the part of writer-director M. Night Shyamalan. Consider this. Shyamalan has cast himself, not in a cameo this time, but in a full-blown role of the hero. But he is not the hero of this story. He's not even the hero of this movie. No, M. Night Shyamalan is the hero of all mankind. See, Shyamalan is writing a book in the film that will eventually change the world, a book that is so revolutionary that he will be martyred for his vision. But that's not all. Shyamalan has also casted Bob Balaban as a pompous film critic who, due to his erroneous interpretations of what he thinks is going on, endangers everyone in the film and is eventually killed off. The words "get over yourself" clearly apply here. So basically, this film is M. Night's soapbox for him to complain about all the bad reviews his films have gotten. And that really confuses me, so let's think about it for a minute. A lot of people don't know that The Sixth Sense was actually his third film, but I'm leaving out Praying with Anger and Wide Awake because Sixth Sense was the film that started his career. For all intents and purposes, it was his first real film. So The Sixth Sense, critically acclaimed, considered a masterpiece in many critical circles. Then came Unbreakable. I didn't like it, but it wasn't bad, and it received generally favorable reviews. Signs, again, critically acclaimed. Not quite up there with The Sixth Sense, but few critics had anything bad to say about it. The Village. Terrible reviews. Oh yeah, it was bad. Lady in the Water came next, so that means that all of this pissing and moaning over the film critics and propelling himself into visionary martyrdom stems from this one negatively received film. One. As I've said in other places in my reviews, everyone makes a bad movie. Sylvester Stallone came out and admitted that Rocky V was bad. On a scale of 1 to 10, he gave it a 0. And this from a man who created one of the greatest film series ever made. No matter who you are, and no matter what you've done, you cannot expect that you are going to make a critically acclaimed masterpiece every time. You are going to make mistakes. The Village was a mistake. It wasn't all bad, but it was bad. The only thing that matters now is how you bounce back. And I'd even go so far as to say that with all of the good films he's made, Shyamalan has earned the right to make a mistake as big as The Village. But instead of bouncing back, he makes Lady in the Water to exercise his whining rights over the fact that people didn't like one of his films. Well, okay, we get it. You're the visionary writer who could never possibly produce a bad work, and anyone who doesn't think so is just a pompous film critic that doesn't get what you were going for. Again, I say, get the hell over yourself. Now, it may seem like I've spent a lot of time on this, but to be honest, all the self-indulgence doesn't concern me when it comes to the film. The only thing that concerns me is, was this a good movie? And the answer is, not very. The film on its own suffers from three crucial problems. The first is the world that it's set in. It's set in our present-day world, but you would never believe that based on the characters' reactions to what's going on. We eventually learn that these people are essentially living out a fairy tale, and everyone has a role in the story. So they all have to try and figure out what their role is in order to proceed. Not a terribly uninteresting idea, but everyone seems far too comfortable about it. They all just say, okay, well, I guess I'm the guardian or whatever, so anyway, let's get on with the story. There is no natural resistance to the notion that they're all living out a fairy tale. Everyone just goes along for the ride without so much as a "this is crazy" remark, and because of this, it's almost impossible to accept that this is going on in the real world. It almost feels like it's all going on in another universe where there are no adults. The second problem is the setting. Everything takes place in an apartment building, and I mean everything. This makes the films feel super confining, almost claustrophobically confining. The Village felt confining too, but you felt like there was an outside world these people could go into to stretch their legs if they wanted to. In Lady in the Water, I kept wondering if there wasn't a secret twist he wasn't telling us about. Like maybe that this apartment building was in a little bubble universe of its own and nothing else existed. I think this film may have been helped by a transition of worlds. if Paul Giamatti's character could have gone into the NARF's world every once in a while, if only to show us something besides bland steps and a swimming pool. But the third and biggest problem of all is the NARF. That's the lady in the water herself. The plot basically boils down to this. The lady is here to inspire M. Night Jesus to write his book. Once she does, she needs to return home, but a giant chia pet is trying to kill her before she can do that. So all the tenants have to realize their part in the story to help her get home. The problem is this. When the only thing at stake in your film is, will X get home, then the audience has to care. I mean really care. Care their ass off about X. Now, while I can't honestly say that I didn't care about this woman at all, I certainly didn't care enough for her fate to carry the whole film. Had the chia pet eaten her alive, I would have sighed, shrugged, and gone home. There's also the problem of sense in this film. At the beginning, we get a narration about how these nymphs or narfs or whatever they are used to talk to mankind and make them wise, but eventually we just stopped listening. So why is it that she's inspiring an artist to write a book? She also tells him that he will be martyred for his vision. So are they wise or downright clairvoyant? And what exactly were we supposed to be listening to in the first place? Is it good advice, inspiration, or info about the future? It's never quite clear. All of the self-absorbed Jesus complexes in the film simply add an extra layer of suck to the project, but the film's real problem lies in its foundations. They just aren't strong enough to hold up the film. Maybe if Shyamalan hadn't taken his one poorly received film so personally, he might have had the focus to make this movie better. But based on his later films, there's no sign of that happening anytime soon. So my advice to everyone out there, watch The Sixth Sense, Signs, hell, even Unbreakable, but don't watch Lady in the Water unless you absolutely have to, like if it's an in-flight movie on a long trip or something. And to M. Night Shyamalan, I give this advice. Get the hell over it. The end. There are some things that need no explanation. There are some people who need no introduction. This is a film that needs no review. Not only is this one of my favorite movies, but the reason it's good are almost so obvious that stating them would only reinforce what you already know if you see this movie as much as I have. Terminator 2 is the film in the series that I've seen the most. Second to that was the first one. The first Terminator was a very good action picture and a creative take on the whole time paradox thing. But Terminator 2 takes all those elements, enhances them, and adds an extra layer to the story, a layer of humanity. In the first Terminator, we had essentially two humans versus one machine, and when no one was shooting, the two principal characters were either talking about the machine, the future, or the rules of time travel. And while we do get a lot of that in the second film, all the technical exposition has been streamlined. After all, they can afford to do this since the audience already knows how this stuff works in detail. The remainder of the dialogue centers on the humans talking to a machine that doesn't understand humanity or the human condition at all. So while the first film indulged itself in talking about sci-fi technobabble, the second film has a golden opportunity to discuss what it is to be human. In fact, this is one of the film's main focuses. The plot is pretty similar to the original, except this time a Mega Terminator is sent back to kill John Connor, and a regular Terminator is sent back to protect him. John has become a delinquent little badass, and in light of her knowledge of the future, Sarah Connor has gone Rambo-like insane. The Terminator eventually befriends the kid, and the two develop a relationship of student and teacher. But interestingly enough, it is the child who acts as the teacher to the machine and teaches him how to laugh, how to speak, and how not to kill people. John Connor is a very interesting character in that he never really got a chance to be a kid. In fact, John takes on the role of the adult even more than